The room is still, save for the soft hum of traffic outside and the occasional distant sound of footsteps in the hallway. I lie in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. My body is restless, yet no matter how I twist and turn, sleep won't come. I glance at the clock on the nightstand. It's nearly 2 a.m., and the weight of the hour only makes my mind race more. There's something different tonight, something off, but I can't put my finger on it. Every night, I try to sleep as if nothing has changed, but tonight it's impossible to ignore. Something's been building up, and it feels like it's on the verge of breaking through. I shift again, trying to find comfort, but the thought that's been gnawing at me for the past few days keeps creeping back into my head. Is it just me, or has she been acting different? My roommate, the person I've shared a space with for months, someone I've laughed with, cried with, and lived with, suddenly feels like a stranger. It's the way she laughs a little too loud at my jokes, or the way her eyes meet mine a fraction too long when we talk. In the quiet of the night, I wonder if I'm imagining it. Is this just my mind turning every innocent moment into something more? Or has something actually changed between us? We've always had an unspoken understanding, a friendship that felt solid, even in silence. But now, every time we share a glance or a laugh, it feels like there's something unsaid hanging between us. Something I can't ignore anymore. I roll over onto my side, eyes closed, willing myself to find peace and sleep, but I know I won't. The thought of what I might be feeling, what I might want from her, feels too big to push away. I can't deny it any longer, not after everything that's been happening. What if she feels it too? What if she's been holding back the same way I have? My heart races at the thought, and for a moment, I almost wish I could take it all back. I hear a soft creak from the hallway, and I freeze. It's faint, but it's enough to send a shiver down my spine. Is that her? The question lingers in the air, unanswered. For a moment, the world outside my room feels so far away, and it's just me, alone with this feeling that's become impossible to ignore. It's the quietest of moments, but it feels like everything is hanging in the balance. It's a lazy Sunday afternoon, the kind where the hours seem to stretch endlessly and the air feels heavy with the stillness of the day. I'm nestled into the couch, a book in hand, but my eyes keep wandering. There's something soothing about these moments, the way everything feels perfectly normal, the way we can exist side by side without the need for much to be said. She's in the kitchen, humming as she prepares a late lunch, a soft melody that mingles with the sound of vegetables being chopped. I smile to myself, realizing how much I've come to love the small rhythms of our life together. We've lived together for over a year now. At first, it was practical, a simple roommate situation that just made sense. But over time, the dynamic has shifted. At first, I barely noticed it. It wasn't like a sudden moment of realization, rather it was a gradual change. We shared meals, swapped stories about work and friends, and navigated the awkwardness of living with someone new. But slowly, without either of us saying a word, we began to fall into a comfortable pattern. Our shared spaces have become more than just rooms filled with furniture. They've become places filled with memories. The kitchen, where we'd often find ourselves preparing meals together, always seemed to be where the most magic happened. She's the one who insists on doing the dishes, despite my constant protests, while I work on setting the table. There's something about this exchange, her insisting on helping even when I tell her to stop, that makes me feel closer to her than I expected. It's in these small, everyday moments that our friendship has deepened. And it's not just the small things. It's the way we talk. Over dinner or coffee, we'd often end up discussing everything and anything. From the big things, what we want out of life, our pasts, the things we've struggled with, to the trivial, what we think of the latest Netflix show or how we're both hopeless at assembling IKEA furniture. She listens with a quiet intensity that makes me feel heard in a way I didn't know I needed. And I listen too, offering her what little wisdom I can, or simply holding space for her when things aren't going well. There's a level of honesty between us that I haven't shared with anyone else. She knows my fears, my insecurities, and my quirks. And yet, she doesn't judge. It's an unconditional acceptance that feels rare. On the surface, everything about our relationship is easy. She's my roommate, my friend, my confidant. We've shared frustrations, late-night rants about work, and laugh-out-loud moments over silly things. We've fought, of course, about who left the bathroom light on or whose turn it was to take out the trash, but these moments never last long. We know each other too well by now. And somehow, it's these little fights, these daily exchanges, that have made me feel closer to her, that have made me trust her in ways I never thought I could. But recently, something has started to shift. It's subtle at first, barely noticeable. Like the way she brushes her hand against mine when handing me the salt during dinner. Or how our conversations linger a little longer, as if neither of us is in a rush to break the silence. These moments, insignificant on their own, start to build a weight between us, one that neither of us is willing to address, not yet. There's a moment that sticks with me, one I think about more than I probably should. It happens one evening when we're sitting on the couch, binge-watching a series. The room is dim, only the soft glow of the television and a few stray lights from the street outside illuminating the space. We've done this countless times, our heads resting against the cushions, her feet tucked under a blanket, mine thrown over the armrest. It's a position I'm familiar with, one I've settled into comfortably over the months. But this time, it's different. She shifts next to me, adjusting the blanket. And for a fleeting moment, her head rests on my shoulder. I'm not sure if it's intentional, but I can feel the weight of her there, pressing against me. My heart skips, my breath catches, and for the first time, I'm aware of how close she is. I can feel the warmth of her body, the rise and fall of her chest as she breathes. There's a stillness in the air, and it feels as though everything is suspended between us. The touch is casual, innocent even, but it lingers in my mind far longer than I'd expected. It's small moments like this that make me question things. I've always considered her just a friend, a roommate I'm comfortable with. But now, I wonder if it's something more. I watch her laugh, a soft sound that fills the room, and I realize how much I enjoy hearing it, how much I need to hear it. Our interactions haven't changed outwardly. We still talk, still laugh, still share our lives. But internally, something is different. There's a tension that I can't explain, one that feels like a knot in my chest. I can't help but think that maybe I'm reading too much into things, that I'm just overthinking. But then, there's the way she looks at me sometimes, as if she's searching for something in my face, something that I'm not sure I have the courage to acknowledge. The more time I spend with her, the more I'm aware of these subtle shifts. When she brushes past me, it feels different now, more purposeful. When she smiles, it's like the room lights up in a way it never did before. These are the moments I find myself replaying in my head at night, unable to shake the feeling that I'm standing on the edge of something I'm too afraid to face. But I can't stop thinking about it. We've reached a point where I can't help but wonder if I'm alone in feeling this shift. She's not the type to openly show her emotions, and I'm not either. So we continue as if everything is the same, even though both of us know it isn't. The line between friendship and something more is starting to blur, and it's hard to tell where we go from here. The unspoken tension is growing, and with every passing day, it becomes harder to ignore. But neither of us is ready to voice it. Not yet. The change in our relationship didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like flipping a switch, but more like the soft shifting of seasons, subtle and gradual, yet undeniable. It began to feel like I was navigating a space where I didn't know the rules anymore, where everything that once felt so simple now had a quiet weight to it. It starts with something small, something that I can't explain away. It's the way her eyes linger on me for just a moment too long, as if she's trying to figure out something that isn't there. Or maybe it's the way she smiles, so genuine, but with a hint of something deeper, something I haven't seen before. She's always been open and warm, but lately, there's been a softness in her presence that wasn't there before. The way she leans in a little closer when we talk, the way her laugh seems to vibrate in the air between us in a way that feels different. I catch myself studying her more often now, how she tilts her head when she listens, the way she pushes her hair behind her ear when she's lost in thought, the subtle movements that once blended into the background of our friendship. But now, those moments stand out. I can't help but notice how beautiful she is in ways I hadn't before. There's something about the way she moves, the way she talks, the way she exists, that suddenly makes me aware of her presence in a way that twists something in my chest. I find myself staring a little too long, thinking about her a little too much. My heart skips when I catch her gaze and she doesn't look away immediately, as though we're both caught in some moment we can't name. It's awkward. I can feel it, but I don't know how to address it. I can't tell her what I'm thinking because I'm not even sure I understand it myself. The comfort we once shared feels different now, tinged with something else, something undefined. I've never been one to talk about feelings, and she isn't either. We've always let things go unsaid, letting them float in the air around us, unspoken but understood. But this is different. This isn't something I can brush aside. It's too big, too heavy, and too real. Then, there's the night it all seems to reach a tipping point. It's a Saturday evening, and we're having a quiet dinner in the living room, just the two of us. The TV is on in the background, but neither of us is really paying attention to it. We're more focused on each other, on the conversation we're having. We talk about work, about friends, about life in general, but there's a weight to the air between us. It's the kind of tension that can't be ignored, but neither of us seems to know how to name it. She's sitting across from me at the small coffee table we've used for months, the flickering light of the TV casting shadows on her face. Her hair falls loosely over her shoulders, and there's an easy comfort in her smile, but it doesn't reach her eyes. I notice that. She looks a little restless, but there's something behind it that I can't quite pinpoint. And then it happens. She stops mid-sentence, her gaze locked on mine, and for a moment, the world outside of our apartment seems to disappear. There's a heaviness in the air, a quiet that fills the room. I can't breathe properly, my chest tight with something I can't name. Her eyes are wide, searching, and suddenly I feel like I'm drowning in them. I can't look away, and she doesn't either. Is there something you want to tell me? She asks, her voice softer than usual, almost a whisper. The question hangs in the air, heavy with meaning, as if she already knows what I'm too afraid to say. My heart is pounding in my chest, and I feel a warmth rush to my face, the familiar anxiety creeping in. I've never been good at this, at confronting the unknown, and right now, everything inside of me is screaming to back away, to pretend like nothing is different. But it's too late for that. I open my mouth, but no words come out. I don't know how to answer. How do you explain something you don't fully understand yourself? How do you put into words the quiet storm that's been brewing inside you, the feelings that seem to have shifted without warning? She's waiting, and I know I can't hide from it any longer. Not from her. Not from myself. I don't know, I manage to say, the words sounding smaller than I feel. She doesn't say anything at first. Instead, she watches me closely, her gaze never wavering. I want to look away, but I can't. I don't want to. I think I've been feeling something, I add, my voice barely above a whisper. The words are clumsy, unsure, but they feel like the first step toward something I've been avoiding. Her eyes soften, her expression shifting from uncertainty to something else. Understanding? Maybe even concern. I don't know. I think I've been feeling it too, she says, and her voice cracks slightly, betraying the calm exterior she's been trying to maintain. There it is. The thing I've been avoiding, the thing that's been hanging in the air between us for weeks. The acknowledgement of something neither of us can pretend is just a passing thought. We're both in this. And neither of us knows how to handle it. The silence that follows is thick, suffocating. I don't know what to do with my hands, where to look. We're both in the same place, standing on the edge of something we can't see clearly, but we both know it's there. I want to say something to fix it, but I don't know how. We've spent so much time building this friendship, this safe space between us, that the idea of it changing terrifies me. And yet, at the same time, it feels inevitable. Finally, she speaks again, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't want to make things awkward, she says, and I know that she's been just as afraid of this as I have. It's not just me. It's her too. But maybe we can't pretend anymore. Maybe we can't. And suddenly, I'm hit with the full weight of what this could mean. Things won't be the same after tonight. They can't be. But in a strange way, it feels like a relief. We've finally said it, acknowledged it. Whatever happens next, we've taken the first step together. The quiet between us stretches, thicker now, more suffocating than ever. I can feel my pulse racing in my throat, my chest tight and constricted, as if every breath I take is a struggle. I never thought I'd find myself here. Not like this, not with her, but the words have already been spoken. We've crossed a line, and everything that comes after is unknown. There's a tension now, an almost palpable force in the air. The room feels smaller somehow, the light dimmer, the shadows longer. It's as if everything around us has faded away, leaving just the two of us alone in this moment. The sounds of the outside world have softened, and all I can hear is the rush of blood in my ears and the erratic thumping of my heart. We're both standing at the edge, peering over into the vast unknown. And for the first time, I realize that there's no going back. Her eyes meet mine again, and I can see something different there now, a rawness that wasn't there before. The protective walls she'd always kept up are crumbling, revealing the vulnerability beneath. She's always been so confident, so sure of herself, but right now, in this moment, she's just as lost as I am. It's terrifying. And yet, strangely comforting. For the first time, we're both vulnerable in the same way, facing the same fear. I've never seen her like this. I've never seen her so human. Do you think we can go back? She asks, her voice trembling, just a whisper. It's the question that's been hanging between us, unspoken, for days now. Can we go back? Can we just forget everything that's happened? Pretend like nothing's changed? But I know the answer, even before I say it. No, I reply, the word escaping me before I can stop it. It's a truth I don't want to admit, but there's no denying it. Things have changed. They're different now, and there's no erasing that. There's no pretending. I don't think we can. She nods, her lips pressing into a thin line as she looks away for a moment. I can see the uncertainty flickering in her eyes, the same uncertainty that mirrors my own. The weight of her gaze is like a physical thing, drawing me in, making it impossible to look away. Then what happens now? She asks almost too quietly, as if she's afraid of the answer. And I'm afraid too. Because I don't know. I swallow hard, my mouth dry. I wish I had a clear answer, something to offer her, something to make this all make sense. But I don't. What I do know is that I can't keep pretending like this doesn't matter. Like I don't feel something for her that's stronger than just friendship. I can't ignore the way my heart races when she's near, the way my thoughts spiral into her presence every time she's out of sight. I don't know, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what happens now. But I can't. I can't just pretend anymore. The words hang in the air, unfinished, and the silence that follows is thick with the weight of everything we've just said, and everything we still haven't said. My heart is pounding in my chest, my hands trembling as I try to figure out what to do, what to say. I want to say something profound, something that will make this all make sense, but there's nothing. There's just the sound of our breathing, heavy and uneven, filling the space between us. And then, without warning, she takes a step closer. It's small, but significant. She doesn't break the distance entirely, but it's enough to shift the air around us, to change the dynamic once again. Her eyes are locked on mine, and I can see the conflict there, her uncertainty, her fear, and something else, something deeper that I don't dare name. I don't know what this is either, she admits, her voice trembling slightly. But I can't ignore it anymore either. I don't want to lose you. But I'm scared of what this could mean for us. The vulnerability in her words hits me like a wave. I never realized how much she was carrying, how much fear and doubt she had been holding in, just as I had. We've both been so afraid of what this could do to our friendship, so afraid of losing what we have, that we've let it fester between us, unspoken and unresolved. But now, we're finally confronting it. Finally saying what we've been too scared to say. I don't want to lose you either, I say, the words coming out more easily than I expected. They feel right, they feel true. But I don't think we can keep pretending like nothing's changing. We're standing there now, inches apart, our eyes locked, the tension between us so thick I can feel it in my skin. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if we're about to ruin everything or if we're about to find something new, something deeper, something more meaningful than what we've ever had before. But I do know that I can't keep holding back. I can't keep hiding from this, from the way I feel. Slowly, cautiously, I reach out. My hand trembles as I take hers, the contact almost electric, like a spark igniting between us. She doesn't pull away. She doesn't hesitate. Her fingers curl around mine, and in that moment, something shifts again. The fear, the uncertainty, they're still there, but they don't feel as strong now. Now, all I can feel is the warmth of her hand in mine, the connection between us that feels too strong to ignore any longer. I don't know what this means, but I'm willing to find out if you are, I say, the words tumbling out in a rush, as if I'm afraid that if I don't say them now, I never will. She doesn't say anything at first. She just looks at me, her eyes searching mine, as though trying to decide something. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, she nods. Yeah, she whispers. Me too. And with that, we step forward, both of us taking a leap of faith into the unknown. The morning light filters softly through the blinds, casting long shadows across the room. It's quiet, almost too quiet, but in the stillness, I feel a calm I haven't felt in days. The weight of what happened last night lingers, but it's different now. Not oppressive, but softer, like a weight I can carry without collapsing under it. My hand reaches for the space beside me, and for the first time, I realize that I don't feel as lost as I did before. She's not here. For a moment, I let the silence stretch, the room empty in more ways than one. We hadn't planned what would happen after that conversation. We hadn't agreed on anything concrete. There were no promises made, no declarations, just two people admitting what they had been too afraid to face before. And now, in the aftermath of it all, I can feel the uncertainty hanging between us like a thread, fragile but still intact. I glance at my phone, noticing the unread message sitting in my inbox from her. She hadn't replied to me last night, and I didn't expect her to. The air between us had been too heavy with everything we had just admitted. But I can't help but wonder, does this change things? Or is it just a moment, something fleeting that fades with time? I hesitate before tapping on the screen, my finger hovering over the message. Hey, are you okay? It's simple, casual, nothing too deep. But my heart is racing as I hit send. The words feel too loaded, too fragile. I don't want to overcomplicate things. Not yet. Not when I don't even know what I want from this situation myself. The message is sent, and I sit back against the pillows waiting. The clock ticks away, each second echoing in my head. And then, just as I'm about to convince myself she won't respond, my phone buzzes in my hand. It's her. Yeah. The message reads, "Just thinking." Thinking. It's a word that lingers in my mind, echoing with so many unspoken thoughts. What is she thinking? Is she afraid like I am? Is she unsure too? I don't have the answers, but I know one thing for certain. Whatever comes next, we're both figuring it out together. Or at least, that's what I want. That's what I hope. I take a deep breath and type back, my fingers moving slowly across the screen. Do you want to talk about it? For a moment, I wonder if I'm pushing too much, too soon. But then, I remind myself that nothing will change if we don't face it head-on. We can't keep dancing around this uncertainty. We can't keep pretending like the tension isn't there. Her reply comes faster this time, almost immediate. Yeah, let's talk. I feel a rush of relief, but it's also mixed with anxiety. Talking means confronting everything. Everything that's been left unsaid. All the emotions we've both kept hidden. But it's time. Time to let go of the fear that's kept us in this limbo, time to move forward, whatever that looks like. Later that day, we meet in the living room. It's been a few hours since our text exchange, but in that time, we've both had space to think, to process. The air between us is lighter now, not as suffocating. The conversation doesn't start with grand declarations or heavy confessions. Instead, we talk in quiet fragments, building towards something deeper. I notice how her eyes flicker towards mine, the way she fidgets with her fingers, the nervous energy she can't quite hide. There's a part of me that wants to reach out and calm her, but I know we're both still feeling our way through this, still unsure of how to move forward. So, she starts, her voice hesitant, I've been thinking about what we said last night. I nod, not sure what to say. I want to tell her everything that's on my mind, but I'm still grappling with it all, trying to figure out how I feel about everything we confessed. I'm scared, she admits, her voice barely above a whisper. Scared that it'll ruin everything. That things won't go back to how they were. I'm scared too, I say honestly, my throat tight. But I don't think we can go back to how it was. I think we have to figure out what's next. We have to figure out if we can make this work. She looks at me then, her gaze searching mine for something. Maybe reassurance, maybe certainty. But all I can offer her is the same uncertainty I'm holding inside. We both need time. We both need space to process everything we've shared, everything we felt. And maybe that's okay. As the days pass, we start to find a rhythm again. It's not perfect, nothing about this feels easy, but it feels real. We laugh at the small things like we always have, and we fight like we always do, but now there's something new in the air. Something fragile but important. A sense of possibility. We don't have all the answers. We don't know where this is going, if it's going anywhere at all. But we're trying. And that's enough for now. The message I sent earlier, do you want to talk about it? Wasn't just about the conversation that followed. It was about something deeper, something unspoken. It was about making the choice to be vulnerable, to lean into the uncertainty, and to take a chance on something that could change everything. And in that, we both learned something. Sometimes, not knowing what comes next is part of the journey. Sometimes, the real growth happens in the spaces between certainty and doubt, in the moments when you choose to keep moving forward, even when everything feels unclear. I think about that as I sit here now, watching the light shift across the room. There's still so much left unsaid, still so many questions hanging in the air. But for the first time in a long time, I'm okay with that. Maybe, just maybe, this is where we're meant to be.